So welcome back to the shop, everybody. In today's episode, we're going to figure out how to run this griddle cooktop that I just bought off of a rocket stove. All right, so I think everything's been self-explanatory up to this point. 3 rocket stoves right here, so we can get 3 individual burners because we're heating up such a large griddle plate. Now, I'm doing something different here on this design. It could work out really good or really bad. I don't know. This is new and unique. Typically, your rocket stove has another tube that comes out here for your grate, your ash pan, and to jet the air in up out the back. And these are your fill chambers for your wood. I don't like that bottom sticking out on 3 individual ones that I have to constantly control grates, ash pans, all the different dampers. Plus, that's kind of all sticking out and in your way. That's why I did this main chamber right here. So I got the door with a little push tab. I did a locking latch on my last one. Honestly, that's kind of overkill. That right there works great. And you can see that I just built this grate in here. This is very important for rocket stoves. So on the bottom, these little notches sit under all 3 burn chambers, and this is where you can put a fire starter in. Although I have found I have a pencil torch that I can reach down in here, I kind of like lighting my rocket stove with the pencil torches and saving my fire starters. I doubled up the grate so it doesn't heat and warp. My other one has given me 0 issues on that. But the grate's very important because now when I stick wood down in there, it sits on top of the grate, not in my ash pan. So if I need to pull my ash pan and dump it during a really long cook, you want your grate suspended above your ash pan. You don't really want your wood all the way down here on the bottom basically, because once you build up ash right there and you can no longer get air in and burn, well, your cook is over. So the grate's very important. So speaking of, now we need to go ahead and build us an ash pan out of some sheet metal, a long one that'll go all the way in and out. This ash pan's so huge, I don't think I'll ever have to pull it during a cook. I could probably cook for hours and hours before it would ever get enough buildup that it'd give me a problem. But after every cook's over, I like to pull the ash pan and dump it, at least before I start the next cook. Then we're gonna move on to a couple little flip down doors right here for these fill chambers because you want these tubes to stay closed off and you want your air to come in on this end. We're actually gonna use this as a main damper, but because I have a little bit of a concern about air coming in on just one end, maybe just feeding this particular burn chamber hotter than the other 2, we're gonna put some dampers up front right here, some little grill dampers. I think that'll also allow me to close this off and really choke things down should I not want a whole lot of heat on my griddle. I like the idea of being able to control my heat. Then we've got to come up with some cooktop right here that can not only allow me to use 3 burners for pots and pans, I want that versatility, but it'll also hold a griddle. I'd like to have it all in one so I don't have multiple pieces laying around. I just put a picture of this out on our social media, on our members feed on YouTube. They get sneak peeks and can see stuff like this. And one person gave some pretty unique feedback. Why don't you figure out how to allow the grease to drip off of the griddle and feed, well, I'm thinking at least one of these chambers. You always like to have one side hotter than the other. So now because of a member's sneak peek suggestion right there, I think we're gonna go ahead and incorporate that into the design before we're ever complete right here. Now, I really like capturing my grease, especially bacon grease, because we freeze it and use it for cooks later. But a lot of times there's stuff that comes off of whatever you're cooking that you don't want to save. And instead of just having to fill up a container and dump it, we may put it right back into one of the burn chambers. And we know that can kind of be our hottest side of the griddle, our jet side, so to speak, our more powerful burner. So let's see if we can incorporate all that and figure it out. All right, so since a viewer recommended that I find a way to put the grease back into a burn chamber, which is going to make a bigger flame, plus burn up the mess, well, we're just going to keep it really nice and simple here. Some 1/2-inch pipe to an elbow, which I have welded in. And yes, I was not trying to breathe that nasty mess in. And it'll dump straight into the chamber. But there's going to be times that I don't want to do that because I don't want the extra flame, the mess, or if it's bacon, for example, I love saving bacon grease, and we'll actually freeze it and use it for cooking. So that's why I did not weld this nipple in right here. I want to weld all these other areas so I don't want it with leaks. But this nipple is now removable. Let's build something that'll set and screw right in here and allow me to put a mason jar here to capture my grease should I want to do that. All right, so I'm doing a small controlled burn in this right now because I just sprayed this with high heat paint. And well, you got to kind of bake it on. Being I don't have a large oven, I just start fires in here. So I'm testing out my different dampers here. I've got them under each chamber so we can pull air. So I got this one wide open, and look, flame is coming out rapidly. I got these two choked off, and although they can still pull some air over, they are not burning anywhere near as hot. Let's see how long it takes to choke that down. So I'm gonna open these two up, choke this one off. Let's see what happens. It's gonna take a minute. Or I can open this entire door down here as a big damper, and it pulls enough air for all three of those. All right, so look up top. You can see the flames coming out of the top of that one. They're starting to come out of the top of this one. This one is choked back down. So that gives me some minor control, not a lot. Or we can come to the end, open this up. So we'll just use that as a big damper. I don't have much wood in here right now because I'm not trying to burn a super hot fire, but at least it looks like we do have some decent control. All right, so we're complete. Let's go over the features real quick, and I'm gonna fire it up and just do a little breakfast on it to test out the heat. But you can see I made this grate that drops in right here because I wanted this to be dual purpose. So now I can put any size pot and pan on here that I want if I want to use a single burner, a double burner, or all three. Now they are spaced up about 4 inches above the flame. I can actually get the flame to come all the way to this. So I think it's still gonna be fine, like say for some cast iron pots. So I can make this multi-use right here. But this is really all about the griddle. So here's the griddle. I picked this up online because the specs and the price were right. Decided to go with a stainless griddle. Of course, you could go with cast iron or whatever it is that you like, but I think this will work just fine. Man, this thing is bright. I gotta put my glasses on. All right, so let's take a look at this. We got a 32-inch griddle up top. All the grease can run to this front tray and then over into one of two things. I'm going to show you this here in just a second. Right now, you see this nice screw-in piece that goes into our drip tube that goes in this burn chamber. Well, it's just designed to hold a mason jar. So a lot of times I like to catch our bacon grease and then we'll actually mold it and freeze it. We'll show you that in another episode. So I can unscrew this here and put a straight pipe in that goes to this drip tube coming off of the griddle itself and send the grease right back in this burn chamber, and we'll ignite it and just deal with it. It's a big single burn chamber at the bottom, 3 fill tubes right here up top. I decided to keep it simple on this build and not use the expensive handles everywhere, which I used on our other big rocket stove that's on the back porch. Just thought I'd be a little smarter with my money here. Here is our main chamber right here, which we can open up. This can be a big damper. Here's our ash grate. You can see where I was just burning. Get some of that off right there. I can pull that all the way out and clean it. And down here is our ash pan, huge ash pan, so I can cook for a long period of time. And of course, the new design that I'm playing around with, adjustable dampers under each burn chamber. So the flame and fire and coals is right up in here. Thought it'd be a good idea to pull some extra air into each of these so you can snuff out the major airflow with this damper and then, well, just control your heat. Because a lot of times when you're cooking on a griddle, you want a hot side and a cold side. You know, say you can move buns, something to keep food warm on one side, and you want a really hot burner for cooking up some meat and all. That's why I did the drip tube to a single burner as well, because we can make one extra hot. And of course, these fill tubes, they're long enough to take my 16-inch firewood that we currently split on the property. I just split them down smaller. You can stick them in here and they just kind of gravity feed down. You'll occasionally have to push some in there. And the other nice thing about having this so far above the burners right here, one, my thinking was it's going to distribute the heat out better for the griddle instead of just trying to put it in a single spot. And two, I can actually throw chunks of firewood, which I cut for my smokers and all, right over into the top. So you can do long pieces here, or I can fill this chamber up. And I'm even thinking about trying cooking with charcoal at times as well. So you could just randomly throw pieces over in there and fill the tube this way or this way. So the bottom tube, this is a pretty unique design. 6x6 square tubing. All these fill tubes and the main rocket tubes themselves are 4x4 square tubing. I can pull the mason jar out I can unscrew my mason jar holder just like that. Now we're back open to the grease tube that goes into this burn chamber. And let me go grab that tube extension. I can put this right down into here, and I spaced everything accordingly. All right, to where it should fit. Right into this griddle grease drop. Now when it comes to starting these, I've just been going down and grabbing all the slivers from the area down there where I'm splitting my firewood. You always wind up with little pieces that bust off. So we'll throw some down in the tubes in here. You can drop some down the main tubes up top. Really doesn't matter. We're just trying to build us a little pile down here, almost like a little bird's nest, and then we'll ignite it. So I could have pulled my grate out and used the spots with fire starters, but I have found this weed burner that I bought years ago right here. Works perfect for igniting all this. How well y'all can see down in there. I only have to stick it down in there just for, 20, 30 seconds. This is relatively green wood. See down in this one that I haven't lit yet, and over here. So we're just trying to get us a little coal bed going with all these. And then we'll throw some bigger pieces in that'll last. Go ahead and stick some bigger pieces in here so it doesn't burn up while we go get our food. All right, we got a pretty good breeze coming from that way today. So I'd imagine the back side of the griddle is going to stay the hottest. All right, so I got a few slices of bacon here. Let's put them on and see what happens. Sizzling right away. Now I did not level this. I don't expect the grease to just flow right where we're expecting. But we're just kind of testing out a proof of concept here. All right, if you take a look at the flag, the wind just finally laid. It's the first time since I've been out here. And we immediately go to running the temp up, sizzling, popping, frying just like I expect to see on a griddle. So what that has told me is there's too big of a gap down here, at least on a windy day. I don't think there is when the wind actually lays. So I'm just gonna make some probably 2 or 3 inch extensions that slide right on the top of these 4x4 tubes. I'll just go cut some 4x4 tubes, weld some tabs to the side, and basically I can just make wind extensions for these. And I can also play around with cooking. We can try them at 1 inch, 2, 3, and get them up very close. So we'll play around with what's the best heat distribution as well. But there you go. Now we're getting somewhere. But a minute ago, I was dealing with literally like 10 to 12 mile an hour winds. That wasn't working out. But now we're cooking. I went ahead and let this side just burn out since we're only cooking just a few pieces of bacon today. And we're just gonna cook a couple eggs right here in this bacon grease. Now, if I was cooking a bunch of bacon and had a bunch of grease running off down into that hole, we'd probably really be kicking the flame up, at least out of that one burner. All right, bacon's not far from being done. Let's move it over to the side where it can still cook a little. We'll crack a couple eggs right here in this bacon grease. Maybe that'll help them from sticking. We typically use bacon grease inside on our stainless pans. All right, a couple farm fresh eggs. There we are. Might need to turn that heat up a little on that burner. There we go. All right, y'all, testing was a success. I can definitely see that I'm gonna need to build some quick extensions that'll slide on the tops of my 4x4 tubes for these crazy windy days. It's cutting underneath and killing my heat. However, I think that's gonna make smaller heat spots on my griddle. So on non-windy days, I think spacing the burner away is gonna spread out more heat, but we can test this in part 2. I think also I may look into building a wind shroud for this, but I gotta really think about that because we're gonna put it in a privacy fence area where the wind's gonna be blocked. and the extension tubes may do just what I need. But that's the cool thing about all these different builds that I'm doing. We can change them, modify them, add on to them, take away, do anything that we want. So we're gonna do a lot more cooking on this in the future to test out the grease traps and catches and the grease burner and things such as that. No doubt it'll work. Grease burns very, very well. Or like I said, we can catch it in the cans. And if you come up with any other ideas that I just really think would be fitting on this, by all means drop a comment and we may incorporate them into a build in the future. All right, y'all, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Can't go wrong with bacon. Crunchy, the way it's supposed to be.